Hey guys, it's Getting Real with the Cockney Buddha. I wanted to have a little bit of chat about those solid friends that are out there and they're good to surround yourself with. One guy in particular, my good mate and brother over there in England. The fella I call Davey Boy. I've always done it, I've done it for years. Also want to talk about a little bit about how he uses his photography for his own mental health. And it's all about surrounding yourself with those people and remembering those people, guys, and, knowing those ones that are around you that are there and the loyal ones. So grab yourself a cup of tea or a coffee and let's have a little bit of a chat around that subject, around those solid people and me talking about Davey Boy. And this one's for you, Davey Boy. Even though I have the many out there and they all know who they are. Davey Boy I've known for 33 plus years, and I've been wanting to do this. It's been in my mind for a little bit to do a podcast on something like this, because I think when we get so wrapped up in our own heads that we honestly and don't realise we're doing it, but kind of pushing some people away, and it comes down to, not wanting to be a burden, and but it's like I remember my mate Eric once, he said to me, why would you deny me the pleasure of helping you? And it really rang a bell with me. And so there's plenty of my mates out there that wrap around this, but Davey Boy he goes back literally 33 plus. We was trying to work it out. I was trying to work it out with my wife because we've been married 30 years this year, and I've known him before that. So I think it was like 30 probably 33 years, something like that, 34, I don't know. Long time. And I met him when I was in catering college, doing my final 2 years on a day release program, which was the next step up from your basics, basically. And then you start going into that kind of management side of things. And if you go any further than that, you're taking yourself out of the kitchen. And that was never my idea. I wanted to stay in the kitchen. But my work, I worked in the House of Commons at this point, and my work sent me for the 2 years, and it was a day release, 1 day a week, basically studying and training for that next level, which is like, it really is that next level, where you're doing like Michelin star stuff. So it's crazy. It's a crazy world, and those that know that world know that world. And I've had guys that I guide come in front of me that are in that world and know that world, and you automatically just connect with it. But yeah, so I met him in college, and it was like weird because he was with this other fella. He kind of bonded with this other fella because he was a metalhead. And this other fella was a metalhead, and they kind of clung, and he always had Metallica shirts on and shit. And I was like, yeah, I like the bands, don't get me wrong, but I was heavy into reggae and soul and blues and, all kinds. And like now, I mean, I had all different kinds of genres of music that I loved, but that was the sound then. And then all of a sudden, I was getting into a little bit of rock music, listening to little Aerosmith and stuff like that, and then Guns N' Roses kind of hit me, and Yeah, then I went on. I started getting into really thrashy, heavy music, and that's how I met my wife, kind of, because she introduced me to Nine Inch Nails, and it was like all of a sudden it just went completely full on, and now I've got that connect with him because he was the metalhead, so we had that going on then, and he introduced me to the Cole, and just he surprised me. Him and his wife surprised me one year. It was in 2016 when I went back over there to London, and there was Slipknot tickets to the Ali Pali, Alexandra Palace, which is a great venue. If you know the Alexandra Palace in London, it's a really cool venue. The view up there of London is really cool, and yeah. So and so we've had that we've had this going on, and after I went, I was like, I just broke up with this girl, and then all of a sudden metal started talking. Everything started making sense on the metal side all of a sudden. And then we just started going to gigs, and it's going to lead me to my first story of this guy. And there was a pub in London called the Intrepid Fox, and it's got real good history. If you knew the Intrepid Fox, or what was the Intrepid Fox in Wardour Street, London, it's got quite a history in there. I believe the Rolling Stones wrote lyrics in there, I believe, in one of the corner, like it used to be in the corner. But it changed hands and ended up moving up to another place in Centre Point, which is another place in London. Then I think it got kicked out. I don't know what happened to it after that. But an absolutely blinding pub, and that was our pub that we used to go to, because it was all rock and metal, and it was an amazing pub, and we used to really connect in there. Anyway, I goes over for a visit this one night, this one year, sorry, and we had my other mate Tim with us, who he liked a bit of rock music, but he wasn't like metal crazy. And he came out with us, and I believe my mate Ian was with us too, who now lives in Australia. And we all meet up in the Intrepid Fox, and I go over to my mate Tim, who's he's not a man. He likes a bit of rock music, but he doesn't know the kind of stuff that we're into. He knew we were into it because he was a good mate of mine. I played rugby with the fella as well, but. So I go over to him and I'm like, "Hey, listen, I'm going to fire some questions off at Davey Boy, and but I'm going to give you the answers, and he's probably not going to know, but you're going to know the answer. And I'm going to say to you, do you know the answer? And he's going to be like, oh yeah. Anyway, so we plan it all out. Davey Boy don't know, and we're having a few drinks in the Intrepid, and all of a sudden it was like I don't know, like Iron Maiden come on, say, right, and I look over at my mate, and I'm like, who's the lead singer of, I'm going to say, who's the lead singer of Iron Maiden? And it's Bruce Dickinson. So think Bruce Dickinson. He's like, all right. So, and then I look at my mate, Davey Boy, who was a metalhead before me, and I go, hey, who's the lead singer of this band? And he's like, hang on, let me think. And I said, who's the band? So he's like, he tells me, and I'm like, okay, who's the lead singer of the band? He's like, like this. And I look over at my mate Tim, and I'm like, do you know? And he's like, yeah. So I'm like, how do you know? And he don't know. Anyway, this went on, and we had this going back and forth all night long, and we didn't tell him. And I'd be going back like year after year, and we'd have an occasion where he'd be standing there with me, and he'll go, I don't get it, mate. And he would start, how does Tim know? How did he? And I had him go. It was about 2 years, I think. And then I said, dude, we was playing a game on you, and he still didn't get it. I'm like, I was giving him the answers. Oh, mate, it was awesome. It was awesome. And then when he came over and visited one year, and he comes downstairs, and my wife and I are standing. It was our other house that we lived in. And we're standing like facing into the kitchen and towards the sink. And he comes down, walking around the corner, goes over to the sink. So he's got his back to us, and he's in Speedos. And I look at my wife and I'm like, give it a nod, like, what the heck's going on with that? Right? He's the only mate I've had where he's been bit in the arse twice by my dog, but the two different dogs. One was Max and one was Nelson. And the funny thing is when he got bit in the arse, we were in the other house and we'd moved here, and he came to visit again, and Max had passed on. He'd bit him in the arse. He's passed on, and we had Nelson, and Nelson was only a young guy then, and Davy boy was sitting down on the couch, and I'm there like on the floor with the dog and that, and Dave gets up and he's walking around again, and I'm like, it would be really funny if this dog bites you in the ass. And I kid you not, he freaking nailed him as I said it. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, I mean, me and this fella go right back. We really do. And there's many stories. Many stories that I could go into with this guy, but again, he found photography and started getting into photography for his mental health, and I had moved over here, which we both took pretty friggin' tough because we were like brothers. I mean, we are brothers. I don't look in it as anybody else. It's just like I said, there's other fellas that know me out there that I call that too, and I don't take that lightly. I really don't. It's something that I when I get that trust going, and when I get that friendship going, and I get to start to like you, and it becomes this really kind of strong connection. It's yeah. And sometimes when you call those people and you're like, hey man, I'm freaking losing it a little bit. It's like my mate Eric. You've heard me mention him before. I told him everything about my mental health one afternoon, and my mate Davy boy. We know each other we all know each other on different levels, but it's still that having that solid person with you that that you can go to and tell anything to, right? Just somebody. And, I've stretched out to people before, and, and to be, I don't know, that friend sometimes, because, there's a lot of people that are feeling it. But yeah, this guy Davy boy, he's that guy that when I think about some of the stories and everything, and then going into the mental health side of it, and that it's basically the kitchen game. I've seen a lot of chefs go down because of the kitchen game. It takes a special set of balls, I tell you, sometimes when you start getting onto some of the levels where the expectations get higher, but you haven't got that sense of the journey and path that I've got now that you can work on your mind. And the same happened with Davy boy. We use the methods that we know work, and I started getting into Buddhism quite heavily. Started throwing things around at Davy boy and that, and we had some chats when I'd gone back to England, and it just becomes organic. I remember Grom, 30-year-old Grom. Go and check him out. Go and check his live out that was on there tonight as well on his channel. It was a good one. But yeah, it's an organic thing. It just is, and it just feels right. The pieces fit, and it's like I say, I've known Davy boy for 30 odd years plus, and I got a lot of bloody stories. Now getting on to his getting onto the mental health side of things, chefing it was one of those things that kind of, it took us both out really at the beginning because it is a really stressful situation. And if you're dealing with anxieties and you really don't know, I didn't even know what anxiety was when I was over in England. There was no. I remember going to seeing a doctor once at a hospital, and I wasn't really sure what I was doing or why I was there, kind of thing. I wasn't sure if she was a therapist or a psychiatrist or what. And then I remember being given a pill and more for me. I was like, what did I know then? I didn't know any different, and I don't even know what I'm taking. And that was my first encounter with trying to get any kind of help, and that fell apart really quick. Right. So it's all of a sudden finding a way, finding a path, and talking about it, and getting a feel for your own mind, and basically that's what Davey Boy, one of his tools, and I've done it too because I've been brought up around it, but I don't know what Davey Boy knows, but he picked up the camera. And he absolutely loves when he's got that camera. I've seen him. He turns into someone different as soon as he's got that camera. And I've got another friend that, a few friends actually that are photographers, and they're all, it's the art. He uses it. I watch him use it, and he the way he talks about it as well. There's that passion. It's like those guys that I talk to now all around the surfing and that. And you listen to the way they talk about weather patterns and the way the ocean looks to them and how they know what it's telling them. Like it's like nature is talking to them, and it's how Davey Boy uses it for his own mental health, really, right? And then he does awesome things with the pictures. He sent me many pictures of like the city, and the other thing with this fella is he amazes me with what his knowledge is with the history around London as well. I mean, if you really want to know something about London, don't come to me. Go to him, right? He's got a website out there, by the way, guys. It's Passion for Pubs. Passion, PASSION, for the number 4, pubs, pubs.co.uk, and you'll get to his website and his Instagram. Same thing, passionforpubs.co.uk/forward. And his name's David Pryor. If you go on his Instagram, he's got a lot of his photography on there, his art, and he's really good. Go and give him a follow, give him a shout, tell him I sent you, and because this guy, we've gone through the trenches together, and like I say, he uses that camera as his way of working with his own anxieties, and I've talked to him about getting him on, doing a podcast interview with him, talking about that side of things, where he was, where he came from, how he got through certain situations, probably some stories that will get thrown in there. And I think he's for it. So I just, once I figure out how to do it, and I'll be cranking that out on a podcast where it's me and him having a chat, me interviewing him a little bit, and then talking about his photography as well. Because I tell you guys, he is really good, especially when he gets it on the computer and I watch him playing with it and messing. That always amazes me when I see people start playing around and it's their art. And when you see someone playing around with their art like he does, it's like it flows. You can see that they become part of. I've got another really close friend of mine, and she's a phenomenal artist with paint mainly, like canvas, and she's the artist with the massive canvases, and she's done some awesome work. And when you talk to her about art, and her art especially, which I have done, and just been given this art show, really, of just showing me the different canvases and knowing her on a different level and seeing the story being played out. It's amazing because you become alive, and that's what, you know. I know that's what Davey Boy does when he gets behind the camera. He becomes alive, and sometimes he'll chuckle to me how he gets some of these shots, because he takes shots of people that I'm saying to him, they knew you took that, and he's like, no, they didn't, and he's laughing at me, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You go and have a look at his Instagram, seriously. It's worth a look because, and he's taken shots of me as well where it's like, blimey, how did you get that? Like, I didn't even know he took it. But it captures, he's got that eye that captures, because photography is that capturing a literally millisecond of time that you never get back again. It's gone. But you capture it in that essence, the energy of it, what it is. And that's what he falls in love with. So when he's behind that camera, you know, he becomes a different person. And you know, I just want to finish off, guys, with, like, you know, what he really means to me. And I wrote some stuff down. So, you know, he's the mate that gets me. He's the one that's always loyal. He's the one I lean on. He's loving. He's always there. He makes me laugh. I know that he gets me. We can disagree, but there's no judgments. And I tell him I love him all the time. So go out there, guys. And, you know, do the same to those that you love, the extended family, those you choose. Let them know how you feel. Let them know what they do for you. Talk things out. And those that reject you didn't belong in the first place. Dave, I love you, me old mucker. You're a freaking blinding mate. You're a great fella. And I'll always love you, matey. Go and check out his sites again. Passion for Pubs, passion for the number 4 pubs.co.uk. And his Instagram, the Passion for Pubs again, .co.uk/forward. His name's David Pry. Go and check him out. And also go and check out my YouTube channel, guys. You'll find me, put in Cockney Buddha, I'll come up on there, and I've got a lot of different YouTube things out there on different mental stuff. Go and give a like and subscribe. You're going to be doing everybody a favour, because it's going to get into the right people that need it. Thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate you.